Hi, I'm Clara Wynne. At my sister's engagement party, my mother poured red wine on my lap like it was part of the meal. My father kept chewing. My sister laughed. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I stood, placed a napkin over the stain, and walked out. That night, I filed a motion at 12. 2 a.m. by Monday, they'd lose control of the estate. By the end of the week, they'd remember the daughter they tried to erase. Because I filed in silence, but I signed in full. The first thing I saw when I walked into the house wasn't the flowers or the lights. It was the wall of family photos. And the hole where I used to be. My graduation picture. Gone. The one of Grandma and me at the cabin. Replaced with Melanie holding champagne. They'd edited me out like a bad memory. I wore navy blue, long sleeves, high collar. The kind of dress Dee once said made me look forgettable. Fitting, I thought. No one greeted me. No one asked how I'd been. I wasn't on the seating chart, just a folding chair behind the dessert table. I sat, back straight, hands folded, eyes quiet. That's when I saw him. Elias Rowe, my ex. Standing near the window, dark jacket, no tie, same unreadable gaze. He didn't smile, didn't nod, but his eyes locked on me, just long enough for me to know he still knew who I was. The wine came later. My mother walked past, paused, and tipped her glass. Right into my lap, not a drop on her. She smiled, not cruelly, politely, like it was an accident everyone understood. My father didn't flinch. Melanie laughed behind a linen napkin. I stood, placed my napkin gently over the stain, and left. Not because I was ashamed, but because my silence had finally sharpened into something they couldn't drink away. The wine wasn't the beginning. The erasure began months earlier, with an email buried between spam and receipts. Subject, confirmation of POA transfer. I almost deleted it, until I saw my own signature at the bottom. Neat, clean, completely forged. It claimed I'd given up power of attorney over Grandma's estate. To my parents, and Melanie, the date on the document, the same week I was hospitalized out of state with pneumonia. I could barely lift a spoon, let alone sign away a family legacy. I didn't confront them, didn't scream. I just started saving things, bank statements, screenshots, old voicemails from Grandma. If they pressure you, say no. It's still yours. I made a folder on my laptop, named it, for when they crossed the line. Then came a message from Elias. Saw your name pop up on a trust filing, just checking in. I stared at the screen, felt my jaw tighten. He had always known how to spot cracks in a case. What he didn't know was that this time I wasn't the crack. I was the earthquake. I replied with one line. I'm cleaning up old messes. No punctuation, no emojis, just the quiet that comes before the paper cuts skin. Her name was Jamie Chen. We hadn't talked since law library days, back when she used to trade outlines for leftovers. Now she worked at the county clerk's office, and still owed me pad thai. I called. Chen speaking. Clara Wynne. You still have back-end access. She didn't miss a beat. Which kind of illegal are we talking? Forgery, power of attorney, my name, their gain. I sent her the PDF. She called me back 40 minutes later. Clara, she said, you were giving a lecture in Montana the day this was signed. I found the footage, ugly green blazer, remember? I did, avocado actually, she paused. Also, the IP used to submit the filing came from your dad's office. They didn't even bother to spoof it. Then she sent me a zip folder. Label, your real signature is uglier, love, Jamie. For the first time in weeks, I laughed. Just once, sharp, like breath through glass. Later that night, Elias messaged, still planning to file alone. I didn't reply, but I did rewatch the Montana footage. He was right. My posture had shifted, less apologetic, more patient. Like I already knew one day. I'd bring their forgery into a courtroom and file it with my real name. Spelled in full. Her name was Cynthia Locke, Grandma's former estate attorney. She retired the same year the revised will magically appeared. I found her on a database that hadn't been updated since 2012. Called, left a message. Ms. Locke, this is Clara Wynne. I believe the will on file isn't the last real one. I think you know that too. She called back 4 hours later. I never destroyed it. People like your father assume we're sloppy. I'm not. The next day, a plain envelope arrived. Inside, Grandma's original will, a notarized statement from Cynthia, and a sticky note in Grandma's cursive. Clara, this land is yours because you stayed, even when they didn't. I sat at the kitchen table for a long time, didn't cry, didn't even blink. Then I scanned the whole thing, twice, and saved it in the folder I'd labeled months ago, for when they crossed the line. That night, Elias texted again. You have standing now, all the way. I typed, not filing for revenge. He replied, I know, that's why it's going to work. It wasn't anger anymore. Not really, just precision and proof, and finally, paper that couldn't be rewritten. It was just past 11:50 p.m. The house was quiet, laptop open, cursor blinking. I logged into the county's emergency filing system, typed my name, Clara Wynne, attached the original will, the forged POA, metadata logs, Grandma's audio notes, a notarized statement from Cynthia, and one line of commentary. This is not a dispute, this is a correction. I hovered over submit, paused, not because I was unsure, but because I wanted to remember this exact silence. Then I clicked. 2 a.m. the timestamp that would undo them. No fireworks, no drama, just finality. I closed the laptop, made tea, sat in the dark with both hands wrapped around the mug like armor. Elias didn't call, but at 12:19 a text came in, filed. I didn't reply, but I knew he'd feel it. The shift, the beginning of the unraveling. That night, I slept with the window open. Not because I wanted fresh air, but because I wanted to remember how it felt. To let something go, and have it not come back. They were on their second round of mimosas when it arrived. Melanie was mid-toast, thanking everyone for the love, the legacy, the family. Dad nodded, glass raised. Mom dabbed her eyes with a linen napkin she'd ironed into submission. Then a man in a blazer walked in. Courier, no smile. A thick envelope in his hand. Wynne family, you've been served. He handed it to my mother. She opened it, slow at first, like it might be monogrammed. But it wasn't an invitation. It was a court-ordered asset freeze, filed in my name. 2 a.m. stamped, sealed, and approved. Inside, original will validation. Emergency petition. Criminal referral packet. My signature, spelled correctly. They said Melanie dropped her glass, that no one moved. That Dad turned pale in a way money couldn't fix. The brunch ended early. That night, Elias called. I didn't answer, but the voicemail, I kept it. You didn't scream, you didn't threaten, you just filed, and that's why it worked. I sat on my kitchen floor, phone still in my hand. For once, not because I was broken, but because the ground finally felt steady. The courtroom was colder than expected. Polished floors, muted light, echoes meant for truth. I wore mustard yellow. The color they always said clashed with my skin. But that morning, it didn't clash. It stood out. Dad sat stiff in his suit. Mom looked carved out of marble. Melanie didn't come. But her name was on every forged line. Elias sat near the back. No tie, arms crossed, eyes steady. The judge, gray braid, no makeup, spoke clearly. Motion to reverse asset freeze filed by the Wynne family. Respondent, Clara Wynne. Dad's lawyer stood, dripping entitlement. Your Honor, Clara is estranged, unstable. This filing was done out of personal spite. I stood, held up a folder, passed it to the clerk. Not spite, proof. Inside, forensic signature analysis, metadata logs, audio file, original will, my notarized statement. The judge plugged in the flash drive. My father's voice filled the room. Use Clara's name. She won't ask questions. That's why it works. Then my mother, S. She always thinks it's a gift. And Melanie's whisper, and if she ever finds out. She won't, Dad replied. She never does. Silence, not shock, recognition. The judge asked, Mr. Wynne, is that your voice? He nodded, one word. Yes. Motion denied, the judge said. And this matter is referred for criminal investigation. Gavel down, court adjourned. As I walked out, Elias stood. He didn't say anything. But when our eyes met, he didn't blink. And I didn't bow. The cabin hadn't changed much. Still smelled like pine, dust, and something kind. The front steps creaked in the same two places. The porch light still flickered if the wind blew east. I opened the door with the key they thought I'd lost, but I never did. I just stopped using it, until the courts reminded them whose name was on the deed. Inside, the firewood was still stacked, my old mug still on the windowsill, a note from Grandma tucked into the back of the bookshelf. This place is yours. Not for blood, for who you chose to be. I made tea, lit the fireplace, sat down and let the silence wrap itself around me. Not heavy, not hollow, just real. I took down the old wooden sign, Wynne Family Retreat. Burned it, hung a new one in its place, The Unchosen House. It's quiet here, but not empty. We host legal workshops now, financial literacy sessions, grants for girls whose names were only ever used, never remembered. Sometimes Elias visits, never stays too long, but one day he left a file on the table. No note, just my name. Inside, a community trust plan, and a sticky note, not here to save you, just here if you want me. I didn't answer, not yet, but I left the porch light on that night. For anyone who needed proof that you don't have to scream to be heard, you just have to sign it for yourself.